All right. So we're going to be talking about common sense and the lack thereof. And it's in an effort to understand why human beings do things that no longer make common sense. You know, we used to be a common sense people coming up under our parents in our age
Yeah,
category. Our parents, especially our mothers, demanded that we use our common sense. She would say, use your brain, you know. She'd say, figure that out for yourself, right? She said, go
yeah,
study. Don't ask simple questions, ask some harder questions.
that's right.
But the whole point was that this thing called common sense used to be available to us, but it no longer seems as though that's the case because of what's going on in the environment. There are actually two levels of sense. There's sense that is native. It's a part of our natural makeup as Allah created us. There's that sense. We call them five basic senses, that kind of stuff. What we see,
Right.
hear, taste, touch, and smell. But that's a surface level of intelligence, but it's still intelligence and it's still sense. And that's what we used to depend on when even we couldn't even go to school at a particular point in our history. We couldn't even, it was illegal to go to school, right? To
Yeah,
teach, so-called Negro people, they weren't supposed to be in no school. If they were, it was in some place that was really just a holding pen for us until 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and they let us go and they teach us little or nothing. They really didn't teach us any skills that we could market because we were the market. Like trying to teach a cow something, knowing that it's just a matter of time before you send them off to the slaughter. So there's two levels. Now we're going to speak on the scientific level. There are two levels of learning. The first level is a level that affects what are called your parent cell, just like your mother, father, our parents. Well, there's
yeah,
something inside of us that are called parent cells, cells. And the parent cells are depending mostly on uh, what your DNA is revealing. Your DNA is the reason why we can eat. It's the reason why we know how to sleep. It's the reason why our hair grows, and everything that we consider to be natural growth and development. Our DNA is in charge of that. That information is actually clocked into our genes. So you can't tell yourself how tall you want to be, can you?
no, you can't.
That's right, because there are certain functions that are strictly regulated by your DNA. The color of your eyes. You can change them artificially, but you haven't really changed the color of your eyes. How we breathe, we can change what happens when we breathe. We can do something to give ourselves asthma or some other breathing issue, but just the natural function of breathing in and breathing out and doing that for our entire life. Who's regulating that? That's not us regulating that,
No.
right? So that's your native intelligence. That's natural intelligence. Intelligence as a word means internal telling of the gents. That's what intelligence means. It means that there's something inside of you, internal. It's communicating something. So that's where the tell part of intelligence comes from. And it's speaking from the gents or the genes, as we said, the DNA that Allah created us with. So intelligence is a native or natural born ability to communicate the things that we need for survival itself. That's why we get hungry. That's why we get thirsty, because Allah had to put the things in us to make us do those things without having to think about it. That's called a survival mechanism. And it's in what is called the unconscious mind. Okay. So we
Right.
have we have three minds basically. Two, but they usually say three. And the first one is the one we're talking about now. We have one that regulates our intelligence on the unconscious level of us doing things like blinking our eyes. We're not paying attention to how many times we blinked in the last 5 minutes or hour.
Right.
We're not paying
Same.
attention how many times we swallowed, that kind of thing, right? It's not
Right.
necessary for the conscious mind to be in charge of those functions, but it is necessary for the conscious mind to be in charge of things that will affect us, especially if it affects us negatively. Then we're supposed to be mindful, as they say, mindful of those things, how we feel about people, what we say to people. Your mother would say, "Why would you say something like that? Why did you come out your mouth with that? That was an insult that you gave that lady in the store. I had never taught you to speak like that. You better learn how to speak to people." We were told these things all of our lives, but we don't realize where they're coming from as far as what they're calling common sense. Like you're supposed to know these things. So that's two levels. That's the level of the unconscious mind that's just doing things that need to be done for survival's sake. But this second layer of intelligence is something that your subconscious mind is in control of. And your subconscious mind is that mind that functions based on what you've been told over and over again, things that you do over and over again until it becomes what's called second nature. First nature is your conscious mind, but second nature is that information that you've been told it so often that the conscious doesn't have to really remember it anymore because it has become automatic in you now. It's become subconscious information, right? How to go to the store, how to put your shoes on, you know, how to put your shirt on, how to get out the front door. Nobody has to. They used to have to teach you that before you learned it. Your mother had to
Right.
say, "Can you unlock this lock, little 4-year-old boy?" And he used to have to stand on his tippy toes. He said, "No, turn it the other way." So everything that we're doing that we're not even thinking about anymore, we had to learn it. So learning is another stage of intellectual development. You got that development that's already in you, and nobody had to teach it to you. And then you have that level that people had to teach you, like how to walk, how to talk, manners at the table when you're eating, especially with other people. Your mother said, "Don't just stuff food in your mouth." All of us were told these things. And then you become more refined the more and more you do those things that are considered now as an adult to be simple. Like, how come we didn't know how to do that when we were 2 years old? Because you had to learn it. Now, when you learn how to do something, here's another level of intelligence. When you learn how to do something, it's no longer your parent cells that are in control. Your parent cells give birth to what are called the soma cells, SOMA. And soma is just a fancy Greek word for body. So internally in your DNA, you have cells, and those are your parent cells, the original cells that you were born with. Nobody gave them to you except your parents because you came from them, right? Other
Right.
than that, your big sister didn't give it to you. Your first grade or kindergarten teacher didn't give it to you. Nobody gave you what your parents' cells give you. And your parents' cells are communicating instructions all of the time. And that's how we learn how to do these minor things, how to go to the bathroom, when to go to the bathroom. We're trying to regulate the information that our parent cells are dictating to us. The parent cells said, "It's time to pee. It's time to poop." You can't help that. But this next level of soma cells that become in charge of your life, they are being educated by the environment, not by your DNA. What's going on around you, the instructions that you get from your parents. That's one level of information. But when your parents start to tell you things that are not necessarily a part of your DNA, they start to tell you things that they learned from the environment. Don't go to that store down there. Them white folks, they beat you up over there. Don't go to that store. See, your genes didn't teach you racism. Eugene said, whoever picks me up, I don't care if they what color. I don't even know anything about what color is. This is what a baby is thinking. I only know how I'm treated, right? But when you get
Right.
to the age where your parents start putting uh, they start to determine what the connections are in with logic, with what you're thinking, and that's when they say those people down there across the road, be careful of them because they're not good people. So we're learning good and bad now from the environment. Those people down there will scream at you. Those people down there don't like our people up here. So we're learning that, but we're not learning that from our genes. There's nothing in our DNA that suggests racial superiority or inferiority. All of that information is environmental. It's from the environment around us. Making sense so far?
All right on board.
All right. So the first group of information is from the inside of you, the DNA. The second layer of information is from the outside of you, the environment, and that's called soma based information, soma cell based information. First level of information, I want you to remember this, parent cell. Second layer of information, soma cell. All right.
Yeah.
Now, here's the dangerous thing about soma cells. They are educating us into what the world around us is and represents because it's the environment that you're learning now. There's a saying of Muhammad, prophet, that says that every child is born upon the Fitra, meaning every child is born upon the way nature created them to be. Like I said, nature is what makes you swallow, is what makes your eyes tear up if you're mad at somebody or sad at something. Nature makes your eyes, tear up. Nature makes you sweat if you're too hot or if you've been overactive, exercising or whatever. It's not the environment that's making you sweat. It's the nature. It's clocked into you. If I reach a certain temperature, certain body temperature, then I'm hot, and because I'm hot, I'm going to sweat. Nobody can stop me because it's nature that's happening inside of my genes. My genes are making me do that. But then Muhammad said, after saying that every child is born upon the fitrah, he said, but it is his environment that makes him something different. I'm paraphrasing a little bit. It's his environment. Nature made him what his parents gave birth to. The environment makes him something different. In fact, he said that it's his environment that makes him less than whole. I'm still paraphrasing, but I'm coming closer to the correct meaning. In other words, the Fitra gave birth to us as a whole entity, a whole person, everything intact. Two arms, two legs, two eyes, ears, nose, all that, all of the parts of the body that we know about, our heart and our lungs, our spleen, and all. The Fitra did that. But the environment makes us something different. The environment says, yes, I have arms, but I can use these hands now to steal from the store. Your genes didn't tell you to do that. The environment, the criminal environment, or your criminal siblings, come into the store, little Johnny, they made you take that cupcake, you know, they made you steal that orange juice.
Right.
Yeah, it wasn't on your mind. They had to teach you that. You had to learn that from your environment. So that hadith again says that it's the environment that makes you something different than what the fitra made you. So as Muslims, and I really should say as true human beings, because that's all a Muslim is supposed to be, true to his and her nature, that makes you a true human. So I like to interchange the words human and Muslim and human. When I read the word Muslim in the Quran, I don't think guy who took Shahada last week. I think the guy who is dedicated and who is honoring the best that is in his genes, the best that is in his DNA, the goodness that is in his heart when he sees somebody in trouble, and in his heart, at least, he wants to help them even if he can't. That's the Muslim. And that happens in any and every ethnic group on this planet. It's not something you come into when you take Shahada. It's not something that if you join the Nation of Islam, now you're a real Muslim, or if you join the Sunnis or the Shia sect, now you're really Muslim. No, well, what was I before that? Because in the Quran, there's no such thing as a non-Muslim. Just read the Quran. You don't see anywhere where it says non-Muslim. So if you're not a Muslim, then you have to be one of the other categories that Allah puts in the Quran, like kafir, munafiq, one of these other guys. You got to be a what they call a disbeliever, or you got to be a hypocrite, or you got to be some other category that's in the Quran. But the Quran doesn't have a category called non-Muslim. But as Muslims, we like to always talk about the non-Muslims. Those are the non-Muslims. Don't go around the non-Muslims. Don't share this. This is not to be shared with non-Muslims. That's a fallacy. There's no such thing as a non-Muslim if you understand what Muslim means, and that has to do with your fitra nature. How best you are following the instructions that Allah clocked into your DNA, and the predominant motivation that's clocked into your DNA is for peace. And that motivation is in everything that Allah has created. I don't know how many planets are in this galaxy. They say 9, some say 12. We don't know. But we do know one thing. They're all at peace. As big as some of them are, and as small as some of them are, and as powerful as some of them are, and as whatever some of the other ones are, they've been existing up there for trillions of years together. We don't hear about wars happening in the heavens. We don't hear about a planet just falling out of the sky. What happened to Saturn? It was there last week. What happened? It doesn't happen like that for the planets. They're obeying a law that Allah created. And that law dictates that they be at peace. So it's the same thing for the people who call themselves Muslims. They're supposed to be people who are dedicated to their basic nature. And the basic nature is for peace. When you have to yell at somebody, even if it's your children or your spouse, you don't like that feeling unless you're a tyrant. You just normally speak, you don't like that. I had to yell at my child, or I had to spank my child. The reason you don't like it is because it goes against the peace that you want for your life and for their lives. When I have to break that peace, I feel uncomfortable until I can bring things back to peace. And that's exactly what's in the Quran. It says if you're at war with somebody or some people, if they say, I don't want to fight anymore, I want peace, then your obligation as a Muslim is to acquiesce and say, yeah, let's have peace. As long as you're asking for it, we're going to do it. I don't care how much turbulence we've had or how many deaths even were behind it. Once one person says, I want peace, and they stop fighting, then you are supposed to automatically stop fighting. Imagine if we had that as a rule in the world right now with the way the world is, where people think fighting is just the natural course of things. You see?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying to you now is for the good of you as an individual, but of course, more importantly, it's for the good of society and how society should perform. And it begins with how the families perform, because you have some families who are killing each other, literally.
Yeah.
Families that are fighting each other. You know, I had at least 2 or 3 different families when I was growing up in the projects, when I was a preteen and a teenager. And these are families who every weekend they like to stand in front of the project buildings, man, and they start by yelling and cursing at each other. Before you know it, somebody done threw a blow. They became They started to love fighting each other in front of people. But that wasn't their parent cells giving them those instructions. Those were their soma cells. Soma intelligence overrides your native intelligence that'll all clocked into your DNA. It overrides it. It cancels it out. It says, I'm not going to obey that because I find much more benefit in doing the things that the environment is inviting me to. The environment is saying it's okay to steal because there's no more police in this neighborhood, or the police have been fired, so we're just out here on our own, gang banging, uh smashing, grabbing, that kind of thing, because there's nobody to stop me.
Right.
But that's not your DNA parent cells giving you those instructions. Your DNA parent cells are saying, look, I don't care if there are police here, if the army is here, the navy, the feds, I don't care who's here. I'm not going to smash and grab because that's not in my Fitra nature. That's not what I was created for.
Hmm.
So you see, there are two different sets of authorities that you have to choose from. One is Fitra, which has a natural leaning towards what is correct behavior. Natural. Then there is that behavior that is produced by misguided soma cells. And as long as the environment says it's okay, who's doing it? Johnny's doing it. Susie's doing it. My auntie is doing it. She's stealing. Or they're fighting in the schoolyard. Who is that? That's my cousin Pookie again. I got to go help Pookie out. I don't even care whether he's right or wrong. I'm just going to go give him some assistance because my family's got to look good in this hood. I can't be letting them look like chumps. I can't let my family look like chumps.
That's right.
See, so how many people can perform like that? They see that as being weak. I'm gonna help my people, man. These my people. You the one out there in the front of the projects fighting your own brother. What do you mean these are my people? You see, that's when you
Yeah.
begin to understand the difference between God's instructions and man's instructions. You say, well, I believe God wants me to behave good, or at least behave in a way that's not causing all of this ruckus and confusion. That doesn't even feel right. So when you go with the best feeling, meaning the inclination to do the correct thing, you're going to more than likely be on the right side of Allah. If your inclinations lead you in the direction of what is good, even though doing it might make you uncomfortable in front of your people. Your whole people can disagree with you. Your whole people will think, okay, Black Lives Matter. Sure, they matter. Every human being matters. So I'm not just going to advocate for so-called Black people. There was a time when we had to do that because of the environmental circumstances where most white people were against you. I have to put up my defenses then. But what happens when times change? What happens when circumstances are different and it's not really necessary to go that route? See, is the person then going to change according to the best of his and her environment? Or are they just going to say, I'm in the habit of hating white people, or I'm in the habit of hating niggas and black people? I'm in that habit. Why should I change because the environment changed? Why should I change because that's no longer the law of the land to treat me that way? No, that's in me now. This is just I'm doing this for my ancestors. You get it? I'm doing this for them. We're around here riding in some of the best cars. wearing some of the best clothes, but we're feeling like this is 400 years ago. So we do things in the name of yesterday, when yesterday is no longer what's going on today. Marvin Gaye once asked the question, what's going on? And then he based what he was planning on doing on what was the current situation for him in his day and time. If that changes, or if I'm able to change it even for the better, then why should I still behave as though the situation has not changed? You continue to make improvements upon the things that you do and the things that you say and the way that you behave. You continue to make improvements on those things because the wrong way of doing things never dies. There's always going to be a choice between the right thing to do and the wrong thing to do. But I'm not going to give any gasoline to the wrong thing. I'm going to try my best to change the mind of that person. I can't be the one to change their hearts. They have to do that. But I can come with better information to help their hearts make that proper decision. So it seems like a simple thing in my conclusion of what I'm saying to you right now. It seems like a simple thing to discuss human behavior and why people do what they do. But as you can see, there is a complicated level to why people do what they do. And it's based on how they receive information. It depends on what part of the brain this information is registering in. Is it registering in my instincts to just defend myself? That's where most people are right now on Earth. They're in that instinctive level of response, not necessarily thinking things through, just responding, like call and response, call and response, call and response. Or am I going to respond emotionally? That's the next level, up from instincts. Am I just going to respond emotionally based on how I feel at that particular time? You made me feel bad. I'm going to treat you worse than bad. Or am I going to behave like a person who's got moral and rational sense? So moral and rational sense has gone out the window. And that's why I said that common sense ain't so common anymore. Because your common senses are coming from those parent genes that are telling you this is not right. You know it deep down inside of you. You might not even be able to explain why it's not right. You just know, no, 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 I'm not going to do that because no, I feel like this is not, I can't explain it academically. I can't explain it showing you any social science books or anything, but my heart knows. And my mama told me, you know, talking that, you ain't acting right, boy. You ain't gonna get nowhere in life acting like that with that mentality. You ain't going nowhere. I don't care how much money you make. I don't care how many friends you think you have. You keep that mentality where you think everything belongs to you and everybody's supposed to do what you say when you say do it. You keep that mentality, you're gonna be in a world of trouble. So we have to bring back common sense. That's the movement I'd like to see. Black Lives Matter, yeah, but common sense matters more. I like to see a movement with that as its theme. Common sense matters more. That just came to me. I haven't been thinking about it, but that's the movement
Yeah,
I would join. I join that movement in a heartbeat.
yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, it's not that there
Yeah.
aren't other things that matter. Yeah, a lot of things matter,
No,
but common sense matters more. Because if I don't have common sense and I can't cultivate higher thinking, then all of the other things that I'm looking for, all of the other things that I might even be owed, they fade, by the wayside because you can't use them unless you're first using your common sense.
no,
So I want to drop that on
that's
you
not your
first.
personal ego. And that's not your personal ego.
No, Your personal ego only rises but so high. You have two egos. Your
Sure.
personal ego in science is called solar plexus. That's the level of the personal ego. It only rises up to the solar plexus, which is like right here between your gut and your chest, right here. You know, when they say, have you ever been in a boxing ring?
Oh
Have you ever
yes.
boxed? Yeah, so you know, I thought you might have been. You know, if you get hit in the solar plexus, it could knock you
No,
out.
no, no, I tried. I tried it. I tried it. I know
Right?
what it's
Your
like.
your microphone is
Yeah,
messing up
I
again.
mean,
Your sound is messing up a little bit.
you know.
Yeah, let's see if we can fix that.
So can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah. So tell me what you just said again.
I
I
said
asked
I
you if you.
tried it. I
Yeah,
experienced it.
yeah. No, you don't have to be a world
I
champion.
experienced it.
Yeah, but you know that if they hit you too hard in the solar
No,
plexus, your lights will go out.
you get out of there. Yeah, you quit. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
you said that's enough.
right, right, right.
Yeah, I quit. I quit.
Yeah, yeah. No, they call it knocking the air out of you. I used to be in the martial arts when I was a teenager. You
Yeah.
know, coming into early adulthood.
Yeah.
Listen, man, if you don't know how to block that shot, you'd be laid out on the floor messing around with some of these people because they aim right for your solar plexus. You know, they know where to go. So the solar
Right.
plexus is very
Exactly.
important. It's a very important area of the body. But spiritually speaking, that area called the solar plexus is also the area that controls your will power. And it's also the area that controls your ego. You know how people say, "Oh, he just got the wind knocked out of him." You can say that for a person who was behaving egotistically, and somebody confronts him and takes what they say is he takes the wind out of their sails, not physically, speaking metaphysically. So that's that area that you have to guard. See, in the Quran, Allah says, and guard the middle salat. It's called Salatul Wusta. But if you simply look at the middle of your body, it's your solar plexus. I'm showing you the correlation now. Most of the martial arts moves,
Yeah.
as far as blocks go, are designed to block your solar plexus from damage. So somebody will show you a move, and but that last move is to guard this. And Muhammad Ali, whoever's boxing, or Mike Tyson, or whatever, they're hit, but they're guarding this more than they're guarding their head.
Right.
Now you can get knocked out if somebody
Right.
hits you in the in the temple, but you get knocked out quicker if somebody's aiming for your solar plexus and gets a clean shot.
Exactly.
So the Quran says, guard the middle salat. They translate that as prayer, but it's not talking about prayers. It's talking about a middle position that is so vulnerable that you need to pay extra attention to its protection. Anything that Allah created to be in the middle of something else deserves the most attention. If I'm in a fight, as a for instance, and I hit the person in his eye and he gets a black eye, right?
Yeah.
That's nowhere near as bad as if I hit him in the nose and cut off his breathing, his ability to breathe. He's got too much blood now in his nose. If he doesn't get that blood out and returns to the ability to breathe, easily breathe in and out, if he doesn't do, and you've had a bad cold before, that ain't no fun when you can't breathe, or a person who has asthma. That ain't fun, man, when you can't breathe. And breathing is controlled from the central point of your
Mm.
face, the midsection of your face. You can get a bump on your lip. You can get a swollen lip, especially if you're in a fight or if you fall. That's not going to kill you. But if you can't breathe for too long, for 2 or 3 minutes in a row, you're out of here. And guard the middle. Salah. Salah is a word that means preservation. Now, maybe you've never heard that before unless you read it in one of my books. Salat is a word that means preservation as one of its main messages. It means other things. It means to connect, but the connection is for the purpose of preserving. If I connect with my children's hands as they cross the street in the middle of busy traffic, it's not just to hold their hand, it's to protect them from any negative thing that might happen based on the traffic flow. If they're in the park and they're young and my children are running around the park, I have my eyes on them because I need to know where they are at all times. I have to preserve my connection with them. So in fact, even in history, it's the Middle Ages that always run into the most problems.
Hmm.
Check any part of anybody's history, Arab history, African history of people in Africa, American history. It's in the West, I should say, not American. This was before America was America. But that period that they call the Middle Ages, that was a rough section of history because it's when people are beginning to grow. It could be academically, it could be militarily. It's always when people are experiencing this tremendous growth spurts, and the growth spurts causes them to begin to believe that they are all that. We're bigger and better than these people, and we can handle them. And so it's the Middle Ages that brings that on, man. So guard the middle salat. Guard that which is designed to preserve you.
Mm.
You're not even finished growing yet. When you turn teenager, which is an area of growth where puberty causes, especially the men, but even the women, the girls, it causes them to start believing that they are all that. My hair is not in pigtails anymore. It's in this new style that the girls are wearing now, or it's in a wig that the girls are wearing now. And they start to think that they're all that. They put a little piece of makeup on, a little lipstick, and they think there's something else. They got to put a little fake eyelashes or whatever, and they start to think there's something else. So you have to guard the middle salat.
Good talk, bro.
Or else you're going to meet your match. You
Never
will,
want that.
because you're calling them to you.
Right,
The
right.
frequency is calling the baddest dude who can take care of your issue. It's just a matter of time before you meet up with him because your frequencies are calling them. It's matching frequencies.
Wow.
That's what happened to Moses in the Quran. That's exactly what happened to him. He thought he was the baddest dude in the land at one point.
Hmm.
And then Allah sent him somebody that they call El Qidr. El Qidr. They call him the green one, for whatever reason, right?
Right.
And Moses thought he could go toe to toe with this guy in terms of his wisdom, because Moses was bragging, according to some stories, that nobody in the earth knew more than he did. And
Wow.
he's the baddest dude on the planet. Now that's not the Quran. That's just what people say.
Right.
So when you get to that point and you start believing like that, then Allah sends you your match, or He sends you somebody who can put that ego back in check, because that's what it's talking about. It's an ego level of development. That's what that Musa story is talking about.
Mm.
Musa wrestled with his ego through most of his challenges in the Quran. He was wrestling with that since he was a baby, put in a basket and sent down to the river to the big man's house, to Pharaoh's house. And Pharaoh's wife or sister, I forget who it was, but she picked him up out of the river and she started to take care of him just like he was her own baby, even though he was from a whole nother people who wanted to kill him.
Mm.
So when he started to grow up, he had mixed messages because of that soma parent cell thing I was telling you about. His
Right.
parent cells said, yeah, Bible speaking, his parent cells were telling him, yeah, you're just a Hebrew.
Mm.
His soma cells was telling him he's of the elite family of Pharaoh himself. So he got it twisted, and he needed to challenge that. And Allah sent him this green one. He sent him this traveler who was answering questions in a way that Musa couldn't accept. He said, why'd you kill that boy? Pharaoh said, don't. He said, here's the deal. You can follow me as long as you keep your mouth shut. That's what he told him. He said, Moses, you can follow me as long as you keep your lips zipped. And I think it was on two or three occasions that Moses just couldn't help himself, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the green one said, listen, we reached the end of our road. Now I'm going to let you go. You can't follow me anymore, but I'm going to tell you the truth behind all of those stories that you saw or things you saw me do that you didn't like. I'm going to show you what the deal was. And when he did, each one of them made common sense.
Exactly. Exactly.
So that's where we are in our history as a people in America. In fact, it's really where the entire world is headed towards the reestablishment of respect and common sense for the common person. Or else the common person is going to be driven out of their mind because of the mismanagement of their soma cells. I just gave you a scientific statement, but it's 100% true. It's the mismanagement of your environmental information coming in through your what you think you're seeing and tasting and touching and all of that. It's that information that's causing the corruption. So we have to now reevaluate all of the information that we've been told. And what is that called in simple language? It's called the reestablishment of the Fitra, or what I like to call the return to the Fitra. And you have to get your instructions now from studying Mother Nature instead of studying Sigmund Freud. You can study him, but just understand he's a secondary study. Whatever scholar you've picked, including Instructor Benjamin Bilal, who's not a scholar, he's just a simple guy who likes to read a lot and learn a lot and ask a lot of questions. That's all I am. But even with me, if you can't check what I'm saying by Mother Nature that Allah created, by the Fitra, then you can take what I'm saying, with a grain of salt also. So our final checkpoint on this highway that we're on of learning, the final checkpoint is the Fitra, not the scholar. No matter how nice she might be, he might be with their knowledge and all of the books that they've written and all of that, they might be real nice with it. Oh man, did you hear what he said about da 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 da? But check it by the Fitra. Does the Fitra support his actions? That's how you know you're on the right track. So that's where this teaching is situated. That's how we're situated. We're not quick to make a decision that's going to make or break your life unless and until we can support it by what Allah has created in His Fitra. Tell me what else behaves like you're behaving right now in nature. Does nature just randomly strike out? Even a snake, you know this, doesn't just strike out at people. When you see a snake moving in the grass, it's because he's trying to get away from somebody, not because he's trying to sneak up on them and, unless it's just
Right.
something that his nature says this is what he eats. So he's going to go after that thing because that's what he eats. But most of the time, a snake is moving, it's because he's protecting himself from something else that's after him, or that might be after him, or that he thinks is after him. My wife got bit like that by a copperhead, in front of
Wow.
one of the homes she was living in. She got bit like that. But the
Wow.
snake wasn't trying to bite her. He was trying to get away from her.
Mm.
And Allah blessed her because that snake came this far away from hitting a vital artery in her foot,
Wow.
from sticking his prongs in a vital artery that would have left her probably without a foot
Wow.
because those things inject their venom quickly.
Wow.
And her daughter had enough presence of mind to take a picture of the snake. So when they went to the hospital, one of the first questions that the doctors asked was, do you know what kind of snake it was?
Mm.
Because that's going to make all the difference in the world as to how we treat her.
Right.
With some snakes, the venom is in there. Like 10 minutes later, you out of here.
Wow.
With others, it's not poisonous at all. So if she couldn't tell them at that moment that it's a copperhead, what could they do? They can't inject her with every kind of venom, not venom,
You know,
anti-venom that they have. They can't just go on the shelf and say, give me those 5 kinds of anti-venom. It's got to be one of those. They can't do that. They'd kill
right.
her. But this is how Allah works. Allah had her daughter be present enough, and her daughter was 8 months pregnant when this happened.
Wow.
But she was still present enough to be able to run and take a picture of it. Allah made sure that the snake was still there. Because remember, the snake was trying to get away from her.
Right.
They were able to find that snake, snap a quick picture, and bring it with them to the doctor. And the doctor said, oh, this is a copperhead. They are venomous. They are dangerous, but you got here in time.
Mm.
Then on top of that, when they looked at the prongs in her foot near her ankle, they saw it was like just less than an inch away from a vital place where if he had sunk his toxins into that place, she would have at least lost her foot, if not
Wow.
worse. So this is how Allah works. It's no spooky abracadabra with Allah. It's these common everyday things that we don't think twice about that represents the mercy of Allah. That's why Allah says, and which one of the favors of Allah will you deny? That's a bad translation, but that's what they tell us it means. Because like William Safir does in the class, he starts out the class, and I love this. He starts out the class by asking people, what are you thankful for today from Allah? Some people would say, I'm thankful for my life. Okay, but your life is a lot of things. Your life is this whole body you're living in, right? That's part of your life. But then they will think about it and they'll say, yeah, I'm thankful for this life, but I'm also thankful for the ability to breathe. So now you're just talking the nose and the lungs. I'm thankful for this blood that's running through my system because all it takes is one puncture and you can bleed out and die, right? I'm thankful
Right.
for these ears. I wouldn't be able to hear these Sunday classes if I didn't have my ears, my eardrums. I'm thankful for not only my eye, I'm thankful for these eyelashes. that filter out things that are trying to get in my eye, and I don't have the speed to catch this dust or this whatever it is blowing in the wind before it gets in my eye. You know how irritating the eye can get? Irritated the eye can get. Then if I look in my eye, I'm thankful for this eyeball. See, you'll never run out of things to be thankful to Allah for. I got my eyeball. Then in the eyeball, I have a pupil. I can have all this brown surrounding stuff or this blue surrounding stuff, depending on what color my eyes are. But the part that helps me see pinpoint is this pupil. And all pupils are black, no matter what your ethnicity. All pupils are black. It's just a black ball. And if I didn't have it, I couldn't see detailed things in front of me. Then I thank Allah for being able to see the details. And I thank Allah also for what they call the peripheral vision. I got two kinds of vision. I got pinpoint vision that captures what I'm looking at directly in front of me. And I also have peripheral vision. That concept is in the Quran. Listen to how Allah describes things in the Quran. It's very clear that his description of some things is peripheral, that there's nothing in the direct message of what he's talking about that's designed to help you. So Allah gives you the surrounding story. There was a man who kindled a fire. He didn't tell you the name of the man. He didn't tell you how high the fire rose. He didn't tell you what kind of maple wood or some other kind of birch wood that he used to kindle the fire. Those pinpoint details were not necessary. That wasn't the point of the story. He just told you there was a man who lit a fire. And when it had lit all around him, it says Allah put out his light and left him in utter darkness. That's all you needed to know. You didn't need to know what time of night it was. That's direct vision. He was using a story that had peripheral vision. I'm not talking about the direct observation of specific things in this story. I'm talking about just observing the periphery of the story, the things that just are in the environment of the story. We know there was fire, so there must have been wood. We know there was fire, so we know there must have been some kind of local light. We know there was fire, so there has to be some kind of local heat. But I know that the heat didn't travel but so far. And I know that the light didn't even travel but so far, although I could see it from a distance. See, Moses said, I perceive a fire. He saw it from a distance. But from where he was standing, the fire couldn't do anything to heat his situation, couldn't do anything to bring him heat and comfort. He had to get closer. And that's when the miracles began to happen. All right, so let me get to any questions that you might have had.
No, I'm just curious about what you just spoke of there. What you were describing um, about the peripheral aspect of everything being seen and not just something specific. Pretty much kind of coincide with what the Arabic language tried to describe itself.
Yeah,
Just what comes to my mind.
that's exactly what it's speaking to, also. And a lot of people wouldn't have picked up on that, but that's exactly, if you're looking for insight into the Quranic message or messages, those are the two areas that you have to examine.
Well, last week, brother, you expand on that when we talked about the Arabia being the language. And
Yes.
three aspects of what you alluded to in describing with the breakdown of Arabia is meaning.
Yeah.
I, which is insight.
Beautiful.
Which is movement. and then which is revelation. So you have
Yeah.
all the three aspects going on at the same time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's right.
So
And if,
that's
and if you want to go further into that, then we know that that letter Ain means I, which we went pretty deeply into last week.
right.
But
Insight.
everything I just said about the
Right.
pupil, the sclera, they call it, the white portion of the eyelashes. See, all of those details factor into the meaning of the letter.
Right.
That's what makes this study so deep and so rich. And just like the eyeball is the center of focus and concentration, the eyelashes are peripheral. They are around the eye. But how
Right.
much attention do you give the lashes? When's the last time you counted your eyelashes? It's not important.
Think about it. Don't even think about it. Yeah, don't
It's not
think about
necessary.
it. Right.
The only thing necessary is that there's a wind coming and it might blow some sand into your eye. You know,
Right.
you protect it. That's all you need to know about that.
Yeah. Your five senses. Why your five senses
Yeah.
being affected?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
The Quran is to be approached from exactly the same vantage point. We
right.
concentrate on the minutia. That's what the so-called hadiths have us in the habit of doing, concentrating on the unnecessary details of a story.
Right.
They're mentioning names in the hadith that are nowhere in the Quran. Why I need to
Mm,
know all that?
yeah.
And now that you're giving me information that I can't even verify from the Quran, now you're controlling the narrative,
Exactly.
introducing all of these characters, the wife of this one, and the son and brother-in-law of that one, and the blind man, and that's not in the Quran. The angel Jibrail who gave him the initial revelation. All right, I love the story, but it's a story. The Quran doesn't say anything about any angel giving him revelation.
Right.
The Quran doesn't say anything about a mountain called the Hira. You think that would be in there?
You know. But different aspects that can empower you with understanding and better insight, because that's what you're looking for anyway as a human being. You're
That's
looking to
right.
grow and
That's
develop.
right.
And
Yeah.
so Allah uses Fitra to enable you to read. And this is
That,
how you grow.
that's right.
So I mean, that's what I'm getting out of this.
It's
So
beautiful.
when I understand the aspect of the language which you break down, I see more than one things at one time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and
Yeah. That's right.
that's something we lost in terms of how we've been taught. So
Yep. That's right.
and then that empowers you on your own. You don't have to hear somebody else
That's right.
interpretation, do your own interpretation. So you have
Yes, sir.
something you could bring to the table yourself in terms of what you
Absolutely.
know, like you asked me. Now what do I want to respond on what
Yeah.
now you give me the opportunity to expound or
I'm
piggyback on what
loving it.
you said.
I'm loving it.
Yeah.
That's right.
And making sure that I'm being aware of what's happening here. I'm not going to sleep. So you
That's
pick
right.
up, you see what's happening, and
And you have had, you said you're 76 now?
yes,
You have had 76 years of learning from you.
I sure have, bro. I was
Not even
much like
from,
you. I was an introvert like you.
yeah.
You know what I'm
So who can argue with your scholarship?
saying? No one.
Unless you just unless you're just lying, but why would you do that?
No, well,
Yeah,
that's
you have
right.
been with you the longest of any human being, including your mother.
Right.
You were with you when you were in the belly of your mother.
That's right.
So
That's
all you
right.
have to do is study the experiences that you gained or learned while you were in the presence of your mother, when you became a teenager, when you became a young adult, when you became an elder. Those are all stages of development in your one life that nobody else can tell you about in the way that you can tell us about.
Right.
We can tell you certain things about you that you might not know, but on the most part, you have spent the most time with you.
Right.
And
And I
that's what the Quran
understand.
is.
I
That's what the
understand.
Quran is. Yeah.
And I understand how, in my personal experience, how I was able to survive things because them things taught me a lesson, and I know it has to be something more powerful than me that is
Yes,
able to present that to me,
that's right.
be a guide to follow. So that what always guided me in terms of the
That's
right and
right.
wrong,
Yeah,
which you mentioned
yeah.
earlier.
You got it.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't
You,
need I don't need to be nobody's cheerleader. I can be my own cheerleader. You know what I'm saying?
of
So
course, that's right.
you know what I'm
Rah, rah, that's right.
saying? So
You came out
but
the
I can
womb.
get my
You
coupon.
were cheerleading when you came out the womb. Yeah.
Yeah, I can get my own coupon. I can speak.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Why not?
So
And
um
I can't say you're wrong. If it's your
no,
experience, I can't say you're wrong, man. And that's why when it comes to choosing a wife or that kind of thing, I can't be a male domineering person and tell my daughter that I need to choose her husband. No. What's wrong with your mind? You know
yeah,
what you like.
right.
I can tell
And
you if
brother,
I
it's
think you're
all
going.
about it's just all
I can
about
tell you if I think you're going to run into a mistake. I can tell you that because I know
oh
this
yeah,
kind of guy. But other than that, you're choosing.
right,
Mhm.
right, right. Well, brother, in my personal journey, like I spoke to you last week, where I travel and things that I experienced as I travel, man, if I didn't believe in Allah, even if I didn't know it was called Allah, I wouldn't have made it. I know something
Right.
was guiding me, something was
Yes.
guiding me in terms of keeping that parental aspect of truth and understanding, keep keep your eye on the right road.
Yeah. They
You know
call it
what
the
you
prize.
what you know is safe. Stay on the right path. What you know is
Exactly.
and so, brother, I experienced all that in my 76 years to understand, especially the last 50 years of my life when I had to leave Washington, D.C. and come out here to
Yeah.
California, live and survive on my own. And I'm not just trying to pat myself on the back, but I'm alluding to the truth that you're saying.
I
You know what I'm saying?
understand.
So it wasn't the God and light, God and me, I wouldn't be where I'm at to say what I'm saying today.
Yes. That's right.
And I appreciate being patient and understanding that I pat myself on the back for, you know.
Well, you're not only patient and understanding, you're also a great listener.
Praise be to Allah. I
When
appreciate
I
it.
listen back to you, I listen for whether you're listening or not.
Oh no, I can look at you and tell you that, bro.
And
I've been around I've been
I
around
know
I've been
that you're
around people.
listening because of the responses that are actually responses to the things that I'm telling you or
Right.
the things that we're discussing.
Well, Allah taught me how to do that too. I had some experience to know that. So
That's necessary, man. That's a tremendous trait.
yeah,
Feel very good about that. I'm the same way.
right.
I was an introvert as a child also. I think you might have heard me say that.
Right. Because well, I was
I
able
was
to
an
observe a
introvert.
lot. I was able to
Yeah.
shut up and just watch. You know what I'm saying? And by watching, I was able to see more than running my mouth or putting on the show, putting on the act.
You know what mama used to tell us? You got two, you got one tongue.
Right.
I mean, what did she say? You had how did she used to say that? You have two ears and one tongue. And she used to tell us that's a sign from God
Right.
that you're supposed to listen more than you speak.
Right.
Yeah.
You'll regret what you said once you open your mouth and find out
You
what you
can't take
said.
it back.
Can't take it back. Yes, sir. So,
Right.
like I told you earlier, Brother Bilal, I said, brother, I'm sitting in the back observing while I'm starting to make my move to come to the front. I want to
Well,
make sure
look,
I know what I'm doing when I come to the front.
it
There
obviously paid off.
ain't gonna be no mistake. Well, I'm still learning, brother. So I'm still
Of
trying to pick
course,
up.
as we all are, but I'm telling you, there are going to be some learners who see this or some instructors who see this interview and they're going to wonder who is this guy?
I'm
Now remember,
nobody. I'm
you
nobody. It's no big eye, little U's. I'm just the same as
yeah,
you.
you'll
Just
have
in
people
different
looking at
places.
this. You'll have people looking at this who have been with me for 10 years, 15 years, some of them.
Wow.
But they're going to say, how did he, when did he learn? I didn't even hear that. They'll say, I didn't even hear that part from Instructor Bilal. First of all, it's not all from Instructor Bilal. It's from nature. It's from, as you said, observation.
Right.
And it's from learning how to listen more than you speak.
Right.
Nothing wrong with speaking, but how you going to speak before you have something to say?
And I dealt with that, brother. I had to deal with that diligently, because always the environment, like you said, environment challenge you,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it challenges you sometimes to act when you shouldn't act, when you should just be listening, watching.
Yeah.
But if you don't know how to train yourself to know when it's time to act,
Mm-hmm.
then you put your foot in your mouth sometimes. So
Yeah.
you want to
Yeah.
be aware
Yeah.
when you speak. So when you speak, you want to make sure when you speak has weight, and
That
then
you're accurate. Yeah.
that's all you need to say,
Yeah.
And
You mentioned a word. You mentioned a word that I like to mention very often, and that is environment. Here's a clue as to how to study words. Whenever you come across a word that's long or big or has a lot of syllables, like environment, always know that it's just a combination of smaller words. And if you can track down what those smaller words indicate, then you have the truest meaning of that word.
I ain't
All right.
insight,
You
insight.
see it?
You pick out the clue.
Yeah. So this word environment, I didn't realize until a couple of years ago that there was actually a word called viron. I thought it was always environ. I knew that was a word,
Right.
but I never knew that there was a word called viron. Viron.
I think none of us. Yeah, that's interesting.
Now, any word in English that has ment on the end of it has to do with your mind, the
Correct.
mental, no matter what the word, no matter what you might think when you first look at the word, if it has ment at the end of it, it has to do with how the mind operates. So if I have this word environment, take off the ment because you know that's an addition.
Right.
The en on the front of it now we find out is also an addition. Now you have the word viron, as I said, Viron. Environ is speaking to the same thing that environment is speaking to. It's just cutting to the chase. The en only means that it's happening in you. Whenever you see a word that has the en on the beginning,
Yes.
it's speaking to something that is operating in you. The in and the en mean the same thing in the English language as a prefix. Internal.
Yes. Good clue.
Environ, viron only means that which surrounds you. So we're back at the top of the story when we were talking about the soma genes and the parent genes. These are influences within you that surround you all of your life. You've been influenced by your genes, that internal disposition, the way you see things. It's either coming from your genetics or it's coming from what you learned in the environment. We spoke about that earlier.
Right.
But Viren, and this is an educated guess, no scholar told me this, I didn't read it in any book, but I believe because of my knowledge of consonantal connections and the fact that V interchanges with F as a labial, the letters V and the letter F are consonantally connected. You can interchange them. So Viren is also Firen, Firon, and Firen is as close to Fir'aun as you can get.
Mm.
And Fir'aun, of course, is Pharaoh.
Mm.
So what possibilities does that understanding open up for us? It means that it's possible, Allah knows for sure, but it's very possible that when I'm reading about Fir'aun in the Quran, I'm reading about the influences in the environment.
Yeah, bro, because you always pointed out that these was not characters that previously existed.
Yes,
There are aspects that's
that's
inside of
right.
you.
That's
There are
right.
aspects that's
They're
inside of you.
templates. Yes, sir.
Okay, so you can take it back to relate to what's happening inside of you, physically,
Absolutely.
emotionally. You know what I'm saying?
and how to correct it if it's gone wrong.
Yeah, because you have the power.
That's right.
It's still something that's not outside of you, in which the language is getting us confused and thinking that as you use the aspect about the environment, you see how it relates internally also.
Yeah.
In terms of it's the description and what it's describing.
Yes.
You know,
See, Muslims are so fooled by that because of the inaccurate understanding we've been given of these stories that we're thinking that this is some ancient leader in Egyptian history. But they never asked themselves, how come Allah didn't give him a name, a proper name? Why is he just Fir'aun? That's just a title. As many times as Fir'aun and Pharaoh is mentioned in scripture, how come he didn't say it was Imhotep, the
mm.
third, the third, whatever? These pharaohs in Egyptian history that they keep telling us about, oh, it might have been this one, or it could have also been the other one because this event in his life happened, or it could have been that one. Why are we guessing about a book and some information that Allah says is crystal clear? It should
Well,
be
we've been
clear when
taught.
you read it in the Quran. You shouldn't need any accessible or additional information to understand what Allah is saying outside of what He gave you in the Quran.
Well, brother, I
So
have
if
to
I,
say
yes,
it's good. It's good. It's good in terms of your approach of the language and how you describing how we should understand and look at the language, verify the points that you're making right now, where most of this religion stuff is nothing but illusion that we've been taught anyway.
yes,
And so understanding the Quran, the way that you present it, is giving us the clear picture now to what the language and what the religion, any religion is speaking about.
yes, and how to use it. That's the important thing, not just how to read it. I want
Yes.
to be able to use this information in 2025 and beyond. I don't need for this to take me 5,000 years ago to ancient Egypt. What good is that? It's going to take me to 5,000 years ago.
Yeah, we're not living in that time.
No. So you're making the Quran a useless book as a scholar, trying to teach me as a scholar. You're making it useless, really. You're making it just a history book.
Right.
If Moses created some miracle or something 5,000 years ago, what good is that miracle today in my life? You're saying it happened at one time in history, and that's it. And Allah just put it in the book for us to read and feel good about. Or Moses is a part of the Red Sea. Okay, how does that help me in 2025?
Good question.
Now, if you say it can't help me, it's just there for us to read and believe in. That's not a good enough answer.
No, I'm gonna walk away.
Come on, you're
I'm
making
gonna
you.
walk
That's
away.
you're wasting my time.
Yeah, ain't nothing happening, as they say, ain't nothing happening there.
Jesus did what? He formed a bird out of clay. Really? How does that help me in 2025? Unless I know that the bird has a meaning for something taking place inside of me, that the
Yes.
clay means something in me that can be molded, that can take on wings, that can defy gravity, the things that are trying to keep me down, pull me down, gravity. The bird, the bird's not stopped by gravity.
Now, with that kind of talk and understanding, you ain't had no choice but to talk. You ain't got time to be silent. At least I don't. You know what I'm saying? So when I get that kind of wisdom, I come out of my shell. I got something I
Yeah,
can
I
say.
see.
Yeah,
I
I said
see.
I got something to say. You know what I'm saying?
And you ought to. And
And
and what you're saying is wisdom.
you know, and
Yeah,
um, and here again, brother, that's all I look to do. I give
yeah,
what is real and what is truthful, and after that, I can shut up. You can take it and run with it yourself.
yeah. Well, in the interest of being careful about language, try not to use the term shut up because there's nothing that Allah created in you that's designed to shut up. Even your silence is loud and has a message. It has a message.
Thank you.
The only silence that doesn't have a message is death. I can ask you all the questions in the world. You still can't answer me.
Right.
What language are you going to use after you die? You're in some other world now. I don't know where you can't come back and speak to me.
Yeah.
But for as long as we are, our five senses, we started out talking about that. The reason why they operate is because they are open. So for whatever we might not be saying vocally with these lips, we're still speaking through these open ears, through these open eyes. We're breathing through these open nostrils, right?
Yes.
We're speaking through this open mouth, and we're even taking in oxygen through these open pores. If somebody were to come and put masking tape around our entire physical body, but leave the nostrils open and leave the mouth open, those are the two ways we breathe that we know about. If they were to tape up the pores all over our body and leave the nostrils open, leave the mouth open, you'd still die, even though you can breathe, because your pores do the greater part of breathing for you.
Mm. Mm.
What a wonderful creator.
Mm. Absolutely.
Now, there's a sign in that. There's an ayat in that. If you understand that your skin represents your human sensitivities, you're sensitive in the skin. You can touch a strand of hair on your arm, and without even touching your skin, you can feel that sensation. Just touching your, just like a cat, you can throw some salt on the back of a cat's fur, and the cat will jump. It
Mm.
hasn't hit his skin yet. It only hit
Mm.
his hair. Hair that's embedded into the skin is very sensitive.
Mm.
That's a sign from Allah about how super sensitive the skin actually is. Muhammad the Prophet in the Quran is made to say by Allah to tell the people that I am a basharun mithlukum. I am a mortal person just like you. But the word for mortal, bashar, it also means skin. He's saying I'm a flesh man like you. Now, people might write that off and say, well, then he's no big deal. He's just like me. No, it's saying that he is a big deal, and so are you.
Mm.
Because what if you didn't have any sensitivity?
Mm.
What if
Exactly.
nothing meant anything to you? You're not sensitive to your family concerns. You're not sensitive to community concerns. You're not sensitive to the fact that we need good leadership in the community. You're not sensitive to the economic needs. You're not sensitive. You're dead if you're not sensitive, because that's what the skin represents. It represents your mortal life, the things that keep you living as a human functional being.
Mm.
So nowhere in the Quran is Allah just saying something to diminish you. Oh, he's just a human. No, there's no such thing as just a human. Not with the words that Allah is using. No such thing. He said he created you fi asani taqweem, in the most excellent of organizational designs. How can you play that cheap? That's what I
That's
would tell the gang. If I had a talk, if I could have a talk with the most vicious gangbangers, that's what I tell them.
mm.
I say, I'm going to tell you something that the creator told me to tell you, that he created us all in the most excellent of organizational designs. Do you know that you're an organizational design, Mr. 14-year-old gangbanger?
Mm.
Do you know that your body is an organization? You're trying to join an organization called a gang. I'm telling you that God already gave you an organization to join.
Mm. Talk.
And these are all the members.
Mm. Ah.
How are you the chief over those members?
Mm. That's powerful.
And he says they're organized. They have leadership. They have followership. Your body has everything. Yeah, it has the part that makes the decisions, the part that feels out whether something is right or not, in the heart. He gives you gut feelings about things. I can't prove it, but man, my gut says don't do that. He gives you legs to be able to walk forward towards a goal. He even gives you toes to anchor yourself. If you didn't have toes, you still couldn't walk, or your feet be hurting. You trying to walk on your nubs. So these are the things that we have to be appreciative of. That's what I would tell these gangbangers, these young thugs that want to be murderers and robbers, especially of their own people. Not that you should
Yeah.
do that to anybody, you shouldn't. But you
Right.
should think more importantly about those people who look like you, who grew up under your circumstances, no better, no worse. And you want to hit his grandmother in the head for her purse,
Come on.
you're going to pay for that one day. But
That's
this
right.
is your moment of reckoning, so you better listen, or else tomorrow might be too late. It's beautiful when you understand it.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, yeah. So that's the new path. And those who claim to be Muslims, especially those who are from our experience, the so called African American experience, whatever that is, an African American, whatever that is. I have to use that language because that's what they understand. But in reality, there's no such thing as an African, and there's no such thing as an American. So I don't identify on the ethnic levels anymore, except to make things easy for another person to understand me. By that's the reason I use that language. It's all false language. Unless you can explain to me what an African is and where the
Mm.
word came from, where the word came from.
Right. Right.
Allah told me I was al insan in the Quran. Now I have to understand what that word means to know what I truly represent. He never says in the Quran that I'm an African. The word Africa is a Greek word, first and foremost. So how did this black guy become labeled with a Greek name? I was never in Greece historically. An American, that name came late.
Mm.
It's a combination of Amir, which means ruler in Arabic or prince, and the suffix ka, which should be ka, not ca. Ka. Amir ka. Some people will tell you, no, it was named after Amerigo Vespucci, the Italian explorer. Prove it. You mean to tell me this guy, Amerigo Vespucci, was so important, Donald, that they named two continents after him? What other place on earth has two continents named after him? North America. And what kind of exploring was he doing to the point where our average child in the average school today can't tell you, first of all, if they've ever even heard of him? Secondly, if they have heard of him, what the hell did he do?
That's yeah. Yeah. That's
So
real talk.
the whole world has been filled with this forgery that they call knowledge and science. And the book to bring us back to our center is Al Quran. So I'm neither of those things, except to make things easier for other people to understand who I'm talking about and what I'm talking about. So that leaves us plenty opportunity, Donald, to name ourselves, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
That leaves us
Who's
opportunity
better?
to study the Quran and come up with a term or terminology that more appropriately describes not who we are, but what we are. This isn't names are not supposed to be naming just your genes, your genealogy, what your family line is. If that's the case, they've done a disservice to half of the human race because the women don't carry the last name.
That's right.
That's a disservice. I mean, tell me, I'm only obligated to learn the history and genealogy of the men, the males.
Mm,
And she's the mother of all, people. She's the one giving birth to the babies and pumping them out,
that's
upon
right.
demand. But,
That's right.
they have to know what my last name is, where that's from. No, that's not what's going on here. We have a chance to change paradigms here, to shift paradigms, to look into the Quran and find the fitra based way of naming things. Allah tells Adam, He said, name the things, all of them. The idea is there. Now, what did Adam do to determine what those names should be? That's me and your job because it hasn't been done yet, except in science.
Got something to live for then, bro.
It is, man.
You know what I'm saying? And
All
I
right.
feel excited, brother. I feel excited because, it gives you the power now to be a part
Yeah,
of this life. You know what I'm
that's
saying?
right.
Instead of being a bystander, which psychologically
Right.
we
Passive
always feel,
participant.
yeah,
Hey,
we're in the game
direct.
now. We're in the
That's right.
game
No
now.
more, no more peripheral.
No, man, no.
We have the chance to be a direct influence
Yeah,
academically,
yeah,
spiritually, emotionally, in all these areas, psychology. We're going to develop a new psychology for a new America.
yeah. Because everyone should have something to say. Everyone should have some participation or feel that they can have participation. And, I think this whole approach and studying genetics and what you're doing with the Quran is making us be true humans. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And so if you can't, God, in my understanding, put us here so that we can serve one another. So we're all participants.
That's how you serve God, by
Yeah,
servicing each other.
that's what I understand with the so-called religion. God
That's right.
put us here to serve one another. How
Yes,
can you
indeed.
say you love God, as the Christians say? How can you say you love God whom you never seen, but hate your neighbor
Yeah.
whom you seen every day?
Oh,
So
come on, man. That's right. That's
I'm not a
right.
man of the cloth, but I understand.
But
I
that's the
understand.
common
I
sense we were
understand common
talking about.
sense. Huh?
That's the common sense we were talking about. That's right.
Well, like you say, common sense. I understand
Hmm.
common sense.
Yeah, but it ain't too common anymore. In the Quran, Allah calls certain groups of people who are related to other people. He calls them by the term Qaum, Qaum, or Qawm, Qaum. And I believe they took that term and came up with the term common
Mm,
because that's what Qaum is. It's your neighbor.
mm.
It's your little girlfriend when you're in elementary school. The people who share your interests, including what you eat, how you dress. That's different all over the world.
Right,
So the people who share those characteristics are Qaum because they produce the same effects based on the same causes. I'm in this same environment as you. What's going to cause me to want to look different, speak different? Why would I speak with an accent that you don't have? So when the African American gets here and he takes Shahada, and all of a sudden you start to detect a little Arabic nuance in his voice, like he's trying to speak like the Arabs, that goes against the fitra.
mm.
I had one brother, I thought he was born somewhere in the Arab land somewhere because his English accent was so thick.
Wow.
You understand?
Yeah,
Now that's fine for the people from Arabia and Pakistan and Iran, Iraq, and those places that have those accents. That's fine for them. They were born into that. That's their qawm. That's what they
right,
have in common. See, qawm, in common. But that's not
right,
what we have in common with those people over there. They're 5,000 miles away.
right, right.
Our people 50, 60 years ago did better than that when they came up with something called pig Latin. You ever hear that?
Yeah.
I know you heard of it because of how old you are.
It's,
They did not want they did not want to keep talking around so-called white people.
Yeah.
in a way that would allow white people to know everything they were talking about and everything they were thinking, because they didn't allow us to speak any other language on the most part. So
Right.
the ingenuity of our people, and this is the Fitra, this is how the Fitra compensates. It started, there was a movement that started among so-called African American people to speak certain words that only you understood.
Right.
They sound like English, but
Right.
so do the words that people call medicalese. Did you know that medicalese was a language?
Mm.
You do know that legalese is a language
Okay.
that only lawyers speak and judges. Legalese. And if you don't know, you'll know the words because they're in English, but you won't know the inferences because they don't teach those to you.
Right.
You can the judge could be saying something and you think that's good news, man, and you get sentenced to 20 years. I thought the judge said. Yeah, but what you didn't know is that there's a separate dictionary for lawyers and judges.
Yes. Yes.
Black's
Yeah.
Law Dictionary. There's a separate dictionary. So we came up with Pig Latin. I'd be interested in knowing why they chose pig, but that's neither here nor there, is it?
No, no, no. This we understood what it was. We understood
Yeah,
what we was getting across to one another, and that's all that mattered.
that's all that mattered. That's right.
You know. And so so
All
so
right.
all the specifics we can deal with that later.
Later.
Some
That's
other
right.
time. You know.
The peripherals. We can do that later, right?
Right.
When we finally get a chance to look around and see what it was, then we come back to
Yeah,
that.
well, yeah,
But
we
right
ain't got no
now,
more.
full steam ahead.
Yes, sir.
Full steam ahead.
Yes, sir.
We have to learn each other's concerns. That's why I'm so happy for this Nunetics class, this Sunday class, because it teaches you priorities, what to focus on as a priority when it comes to the Quran.
And also your individual class, like you doing your session and you doing with me.
Oh yeah,
Uh, some of us that I know myself in particular, no one ever seen my face or
hmm
nobody ever hear much of what I have to say. So you
it's
do this
beautiful.
little session. So folks out there now, you can see who I am.
Yes,
You can hear what my thoughts are because some of y'all been around a long time and y'all able to steal a spotlight because you got more to say. But this give us little fries, give us a chance to speak our part too, which I think is great
it's
because
wonderful.
this has
It's
enhanced me.
Superman.
This has
Oh,
enhanced me
mm,
tremendously. So
this is so great, an opportunity for the average person out there who might be looking at this to let you know that these one-on-ones that we're doing, first of all, if you're already a member of the Nunetics class, as you are and have been for a few years now, that these sessions are free for you. You don't pay any extra anything to
can't
have a
beat that, man.
one-on-one.
Can't beat
And
that.
normally these sessions are supposed to be 30 minutes and an hour, you know, and
Right.
there's a little price that comes along with it. I don't think I've ever done a one-on-one that lasted only an hour.
Wow.
We're just getting into it after an hour. We're just getting started. But what I'm saying is, you people out there who are already members in the class, you should be ringing my phone off the hook to get one of these sessions where I can tailor make my comments towards your specific questions and concerns and favorite words in the Quran that you never quite understood. You have a platform now, no matter where you're from, to be able to ask.
Well, I think, brother, it's this my opinion, because I only speak for what or how I experienced this encounter. And it's different when you even though other folks gonna see it later, but at the time being, it's like I'm talking to you one on one, and that's different empowerment for me when I'm speaking one on one because I don't have no interruption with no one else. Not saying that someone else may have something to say, but I feel
Mhm.
comfortable. It's all about how you need to feel yourself.
Yeah,
And if
So,
this makes you feel better,
mhm,
it does for me
yeah, oh yeah, this is
to
wonderful.
get to
But
get to get started.
I want the other folks to understand the Quranic principle, and that is that Allah says that your death and your resurrection is as one soul. So what I've learned to do is take one person, yourself, one nafs, that's what the Quran says, that your death and your revival is as one soul. You understand?
Yeah.
So if let's go back to the gangbanger, and let's go back to another statement Allah makes in the Quran. He says that to kill one person is as though you have killed the whole people. So if let's go back to the gangbanging again. If I'm a gangbanger and I kill one African American child, it's as though I killed every African American child. Who wants to live with that on their conscience? But at the same time, if I teach another child in a way that brings him or her away from that foolish life into a life of academic perfection, wanting to learn, even though he's not literally in a school to do so. He's learning every time he goes out in search of new information. He's at the library 2 and 3 times a day. He's got study buddies he's with on the phone. That's what many of us are in this class. People who haven't really paid that much attention to studying per se. Not even the Quran. The most study they've gotten out of the Quran is once a year during Ramadan. And they sweat through that so fast trying to get it over with in 30 days that they didn't learn anything from that either. So the death and the resurrection, if you come to life up here, it's as though you have revived the entire the entire people. And that's a thought to think about. That when you're operating in a situation, even if it is a one-on-one, understand that that same message can reach millions of people if Allah would allow it. Could reach hundreds of people, dozens of people at least, without us being in an actual classroom of 20 people. This is going to reach many more people than 20 people. So look what we've done as far as help for the brain, for people who were taught not to think. And here comes somebody who was taught to think. That would be yourself. Look at the help that you've given to all of those countless people who were taught not to think, that it wasn't important.
We're all one soul.
That's the message. All right.
Thank you,
We're
sir.
going we're going to meet again.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
All right. Yeah. So stay in touch.
I'm gonna do that.
Anytime you have a question, you don't have to wait for these one-on-ones. Just call me up or email me or whatever way you can reach me, text it to me. And I'm always available to answer the questions of people who are uh, registered. And I have to put it that way, that
Well, I
I can't
feel I
take
know
off.
you a little bit better. I feel
Well,
I know you a little
you know me
better.
a lot. You know me a lot better after this. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm starting to feel that way anyway, and I
Yeah.
think that it's good for those other folks that haven't tried it,
Yeah.
and you'll feel the difference, you know.
Yeah.
And I know if I can do it, I know the rest of you can do it, and now I know the rest of
Sure.
you will feel a difference. You'll feel a
Sure.
difference, you know, because I know
Oh,
me.
yeah.
I know
Oh,
me,
yeah.
and so this made me feel a difference, and I appreciate it. And
All right.
look forward look forward to many more.
Yes, sir. If Allah wills, for sure.
Yes,
Keep
sir.
us alive and healthy,
Yes,
thinking good thoughts, and
yes,
sharing the information because that's how we grow when we share it. People who just hold on to it, they die where they are.
yes, sir.
People who share the knowledge is like people who share their food. Allah never gives you a garden that only allows you to feed your one family. If he
Mm.
gave you a garden, he always replenishes that garden. He always extends that garden so that it can feed more than just your one individual family. That's how people become farmers because you're doing something you mentioned earlier. We're serving people, and that's how we serve the source creator, Allah.
Yes,
He doesn't need anything. Allah
that's
doesn't
right.
need anything from us. So who are we going to share all of this with?
That's right.
And if you keep it to yourself, you'll suffocate
I
because
agree with you, brother. I agree with
that's yeah, that's greedy to keep this to yourself.
you.
That's
Right.
how I get more. I'm teaching something almost totally different than what I said 10 years ago, 5 years ago. Or I've added things that expanded what I knew 10 years ago. Why does Allah keep giving me more? Because I share it. So while you're on your computer, like, share, and comment.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, my
All
brother.
right, my brother. Appreciate you, man. Assalamu
Appreciate you too.
alaikum. Yes, sir.
Alaikum salam.